P3 performance strategy dealing with internal auditing, the internal audit process, roles and responsibilities and functions. The core role of internal audit is to provide assurance that the main business risks are being managed and that internal controls are operating effectively. The various roles, responsibilities, and functions include the following. Roles and responsibilities. Risk authority must be defined, and employees should be encouraged to take risk consistent with the organization's risk strategy. Repeat, roles and responsibilities. Risk authority must be defined, and employees should be encouraged to take risk consistent with the organization's risk strategy. Risk management function. A risk management function, such as a chief risk officer and staff, should be established to coordinate risk-related activities in the organization. Knowledge management, communication, and collaboration. Systems such as intra-web sites and risk/control databases should facilitate knowledge sharing. Training and education. All personnel should be provided with formal risk and control training. Reporting structures. Risk and control operating information must flow through established risk management channels. Data must be summarized to an appropriate level to enable swift action. Concerns of an internal auditor. The internal auditor will be concerned about the way the organization ensures a. The reliability and integrity of financial and operating information. Number 2, the effectiveness and efficiency of operations. Number 3, safeguarding of assets. Number 4, the compliance with laws, regulations, and contracts. The need for independence and objectivity. The need for independence and objectivity. The primary responsibility for providing assurance on the adequacy of controls and risk management lies with management. Repeat, the primary responsibility for providing assurance on the adequacy of controls and risk management lies with management. Audit committees need independent and objective assurance to validate management's assurances. Objectivity relates to having the ability to make unbiased judgments and avoid situations where judgment may be compromised. The need for internal audit function. The need for internal audit function will depend on the scale, diversity, and complexity of business activities and a comparison of costs and benefits of an internal audit function. Repeat, the need for an internal audit function will depend on the scale, diversity, and complexity of business activities and a comparison of costs and benefits of an internal audit function. Companies that do not have an internal audit function should review the need for one on an annual basis. Changes in the external environment, organizational restructuring, or adverse trends evident from monitoring internal control systems should be considered as part of this review. An internal audit may be carried out by staff employed by the company or be outsourced to a third party. In the absence of an internal audit function, management needs to apply other monitoring processes in order to assure itself that the board that the system of internal control is functioning effectively. The board will need to assess whether these processes provide sufficient and objective assurance. Where there is an internal audit function, its scope of work, authority, and resources should be reviewed annually. The internal audit should also monitor and report on management's agreed responses to findings and whether internal audit recommendations have been implemented. Repeat, where there is an internal audit function, its scope of work, authority, and resources should be reviewed annually. Internal audit should also monitor and report on management's agreed responses to findings and whether internal audit recommendations have been implemented. The internal audit process, the relationship between external auditors. The external audit is based on a very simple logic. Most entities have stakeholders who are interested in their financial performance. The directors or managers inform those stakeholders by preparing and publishing financial statements. However, the stakeholders may be unwilling to rely too heavily on the financial statements because the directors or managers who prepare them could have distorted the figures in order to make themselves look better. Therefore, there is a need for an external audit. An external audit may be required by law depending on the nature of the entity and the country in which it is incorporated. In the United Kingdom, most companies and many charities and public sector entities are required to have an audit. An external audit may also be commissioned on a voluntary basis because the stakeholders are unable to bring some pressure to bear on the managers, or because the managers see it as being in their best interests to have one. The external auditor's role is to enhance confidence in the reliability of the financial statements by gathering evidence on the financial statements and expressing an opinion on whether the financial statements are presented fairly.